Hello viewers, welcome to my channel Dr. Shom's English class. In today's video, we are going to discuss the poem Ode on Intimations of Immortality written by William Wordsworth. We have already had another video on this poem. In that video, that was a part 1 of our discussion of the poem. We have talked about the themes and concepts that are there in the poem. In today's video, we are going to discuss the text. So let us come to the text. As you can see from the title, it's a recollection of early childhood. The poem was published in 1807. At that time, William Wordsworth was in his late 30s. He was 37-year-old to be precise. So standing at that moment, he was recollecting his early childhood. We are going to read and discuss the poem stanza-wise. So if you go to the first stanza, let us start. There was a time when a meadow, grove, and stream, the earth and every common sight, to me did seem apparelled in celestial light, the glory and the freshness of a dream. It is not now as it hath been of yore. Turn wheresoever I may by night or day, the things which I have seen I now can see no more. So the poet opens the poem with an observation. An observation of what? An observation about how he interacts, how his mind interacts with nature now versus how it used to interact with nature in past. So there was a time when every part of nature, be it a meadow or a grove or a stream, the earth in general or everything, used to look like they are covered in some heavenly light to the poet. There is to be a glory and there's to be a dream-like freshness in everything of nature. But now that is not the case. Nowadays, wherever the poet turns, the poet feels that there were certain things that are missing. Certain things were there in past, but they are not there anymore. The next stanza. The rainbow comes and goes, and lovely is the rose. The moon doth with delight look round her when the heavens are bare. Waters on a starry night are beautiful and fair. The sunshine is a glorious birth, but yet I know wherever I go that there hath passed away a glory from the earth. Second stanza is a beautiful description of nature, where he talks about the beauty of nature. The rainbow is beautiful, the rose is beautiful, the moon is beautiful, everything is beautiful, just as they used to be earlier. Rainbow comes and goes, rose is lovely, and the moon is personified here as if the moon is looking around her with delight. On a starry night, everything is beautiful, fair. Sunshine is also a glorious birth. Everything is beautiful. But yet I know wherever I go that there hath passed away a glory from the earth. But for me, for the poet, one certain thing is lost. The nature is still beautiful as it used to be, but when it comes to the poet's relation with the nature, when it comes to how the poet relates with nature, something seems to be lost there. Something seems to be missing there. Now, while the bird does sing a joyous song, and while the young lambs bound as to the tabor sound, to me alone there came a thought of grief. A timely utterance gave that thought relief. So, in the previous two stanzas, he has talked about how nature is very beautiful, but then certain things are missing for him. In the first 4 lines of this third stanza, he continues with the idea and he says that only to me, there is a sense as if something is lost. See, this is also an important aspect as to if the nature had lost its beauty totally for everyone, that would have been a different thing. But nature is full of vision, nature is full of glory, nature is full of heavenly light for everybody else. But only for me, something is lost. A person who is very emotionally connected to nature, for that person, this loss is a great loss. So our poet is very sad because he alone is suffering, whereas everyone else, or so he thinks, is connecting with nature the way he used to do earlier, but now he cannot do it anymore. So to me alone, only to me, there came a thought of grief. But he decides that he will not be sad about it. So a timely utterance gave that thought relief. And now that I have talked about it, now that I have told you about that, I feel relieved. And again I'm strong. The caterers blow their trumpet from the steep. No more shall grief of mine the seasons wrong. So here we see the poet is trying to negotiate with himself. The poet is trying to say that he will not be sad. He has said that no more shall grief of mine the seasons wrong. The seasons are beautiful. The world is beautiful. The earth is beautiful. It is the birds are beautiful. The birds are singing beautifully. The rose is beautiful. Everything is so beautiful, and he will not wrong the season anymore. To wrong means to do injustice to something. And how can we do injustice to a beautiful season? We can do injustice to a beautiful season by not being happy in that season. So if the poet is sad and sullen in this time when the nature is so happy and so gay and so beautiful, then it will be wrong. It will be an injustice done to the season. And our poet, who is a nature lover, who is a nature worshipper, he would definitely not want to wrong the season. So he tries to tell himself not to wrong the season. He tries to tell himself, let me not be sad anymore. Let me be happy. Okay, I feel that something is lost and I have told that. So now I'm relieved. So let me be happy. So you will see in next 4 or 5 lines, he will try to be happy. But after some time, he will again come back to this thing and he will again say that, but no, I cannot be happy because I'm always bugged, I'm always burdened by this idea that I have lost something. Let's see how he tries to negotiate with himself. And again am strong. The cataracts blow their trumpets from the steep. No more shall grief of mine the season wrong. I hear the echoes through the mountains throng. The winds come to me from the fields of sleep. And all the earth is gay. Land and sea give themselves up to jolly tea. And with the heart of May doth every beast keep holiday. Thou child of joy, shout round me, let me hear thy shouts, thou happy shepherd boy. The next stanza. Ye blessed creatures, I have heard the call, ye to each other make. I see the heavens laugh with you in your jubilee. My heart is at your festival, my head is hath its coronal. The fullness of your bliss I feel it all. O evil day, if I was sullen while earth herself is adorning this sweet May morning, and the children are culling on every side. So, all these lines in this stanza, we see that the poet is trying to describe how beautiful this nature is right now. There are shepherd boys, there are young lambs, and there's this. It's a beautiful May morning. Of course, we are talking about not the May of India, so it is not a hot and burning May. It's this May is very pleasant. They have very pleasant weather, and it is not that cold. It's not warm, not hot either. So it's a beautiful time. It's flowers are blooming everywhere. So in this good season, this happy time, he decides that he will not be sad anymore. But then, in 1,000 valleys far and wide, fresh flowers while the sun shines warm, and the babe leaps up on his mother's arm. I hear, with joy I hear, but there is a tree of many one, a single field which I have looked upon. Both of them speak of something that is gone. As I say, the poet will come back to this idea that he has lost something, and he's so burdened with this idea. He's so sad with this idea, and he's so desperate about this thing that he has lost something, and how can he get that thing back? So, even if he is trying to negotiate with his own sadness, he is not able to. As we said, it is a romantic poem. So in this poem, we are going to see unabashed expression of the poet's own emotions and feelings. So here we can see the poet struggling with his own emotions. After a few lines that he has dedicated to describe the beauty of nature, he again comes back to this idea that something is gone. The pansy at my feet doth the same tale repeat. Then comes this desperate question, whither is fled the visionary gleam? Where is it now, the glory and the dream? We can almost hear the pain in his voice. He is so desperate to find it, but it is gone. From there, we come to the concept of birth and then growing up and the process of going away from God, going away from eternal soul. Let's see. Our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting. The soul that rises with us, our life star, hath had elsewhere its setting, and cometh from afar. Not in entire forgetfulness, and not in utter nakedness, but trailing clouds of glory do we come from God, who is our home. These are beautiful lines where he talks about our birth, and he says that our birth is just like sleeping and dreaming. It's so interesting. Our point of birth is like our point of falling asleep, and then after that everything that happens during our lifetime is nothing more than a dream. It is not reality. Forget about total reality. It's not even a part of reality. It's just a collection of illusion that we have on this earth. Our soul does not belong here. So the soul that rises with us, our life star, hath had elsewhere its setting. Our soul has its home somewhere else. Setting in here means home. And cometh from afar. Our soul has come from far, not in entire forgetfulness and not in utter nakedness, but trailing clouds of glory do we come from God, who is our home. So when we are born, we have still not forgotten everything. We have discussed about this in our previous video. You can see where he has said that when a child is born, he has still not forgotten everything about God. But when the child will grow up, gradually he will forget. So he is saying that even if we are all are naked when we are born, but actually we are not naked because we have the clouds of glory around us. Because we come from God, who is our home. Heaven lies about us in our infancy. Shades of the prison house begin to close upon the growing boy. But he beholds the light, and whence it flows, he sees it in his joy. The youth, who daily farther from the east must travel, still is nature's priest, and by the vision splendid is on his way attended. At length the man perceived it die away, and fade into the light of common day. So here the poet is describing different phases of our life. First is the phase of infancy. Then we have the phase of a growing child. Then we have a youth. And finally we have an adult person. So an infant is totally playing under the lights of heaven. A growing boy has started growing prison bars coming around him, but he is still very much under the light of heaven. When that boy turns into youth, he daily farther from the east must travel. So he has to travel. It is a part of growing up that you will go farther and farther from God, because around you we will have prison bars coming up that will eventually totally cover you. But a youth is still nature's priest. A youth can still see that the light is coming from God, and he can still see it manifested in nature. As we discussed in our themes, that the relation between human mind and that eternal soul and eternal time, that manifests in nature. That manifests in how we relate to nature and how we connect to nature. So a youth, even if he is no longer very close to God, but still is close enough, so he is still nature's priest. So he can still see heavenly glory in nature. But at length, the man perceives it die away. When that youth turns into a man, that heavenly light totally dies away and fade into the light of common day. In this situation, when we are on earth, what happens? Our earth is like you can understand it as it's like a hostel. So our earth, just like a hostel or a prison, let us not call it a prison because it is not a very sad place either. It's not a place to give us punishment either. But then yes, it is a place that is away from our home. So let's understand it as it is a hostel. So what happens when we live in hostel? Even though it is not our home, but we kind of adjust with the atmosphere of the hostel, and we keep having different programs and different things to enjoy ourselves so that we do not miss our home anymore. Earth is also like that. So earth fills her lap with pleasures of her own, yearnings she hath in her own natural kind, and even with something of a mother's mind, and no unworthy aim. The homely nurse doth all she can to make her foster child, her inmate man, forget the glories he hath known, and that imperial palace whence he came. So, this earth, this world, tries its best to make the inmate man forget the house, the home from where he has come, so that he does not feel homesick. Okay. Now, in the next stanza, we see there is a description of a child. When we look at the notes that are left by William Wordsworth himself, we get to know that in these lines, the child whose descriptions we are seeing is the son of Samuel Taylor Coleridge, whose name was Hurley Taylor Coleridge, and he was a 6-year-old child at the time when the poem was written. So the description here is of Hurley. Behold the child among his newborn blisses, a 6 years darling of a pygmy's size. See, where amid work of his own hand he lies, fretted by sallies of his mother's kisses, with light upon him from his father's eyes. See at his feet some little plan or chart, some fragment from his dream of human life, shaped by himself with newly learned art. So here is a description of a 6-year-old child who is doing something, who is busy in his own world of games and play, and he's scribbling something on the floor, and he's so loved by people around him. His mother is kissing him, his father is looking at him with love in his eyes. He is so blissfully unaware of things that are happening around him. He is busy in his own mind, in his own world. See at his feet some little plan or chart, the scribbling that the child has done. The poet is calling that scribbling, that piece of scribbling, as some little plan or chart, some fragment, as if he is trying to express whatever he remembers of his dream of his previous life or whatever. The child is scribbling on the floor. He must be thinking something. He must know what he is making. We, the other people, do not know, because we cannot know what he is thinking. But then our poet is trying to understand what those scribblings may be about, what those sketches that he is making may be about. Is it a wedding or a festival, or a mourning or a funeral? And this hath now his hurt, and unto this he frames his song. Whatever it is that he is making, whether it is a festival or a funeral, but now he is totally engrossed in it. Then will he fit his tongue to dialogue of business, love, or strife. Now he is busy in his world of game, but after some days he will grow up. And when he will grow up, he will be engrossed with other things. There will come a point where he will be so engrossed with his business, then he will be so engrossed in his love life, then he will be so engrossed in all the enmities and all the problems of his life. And finally, these are the phases of his life that will come. And finally, what will be the final phase that will come? Old age, palsied age, paralyzed age. Old age is called paralyzed because with age we have different diseases, so we do not really need to have a disease. Old age itself at times can become a disease, so we suffer. So these different stages, from a 6-year-old who is busy in his game and a palsied age, a paralyzed old man, is the same person. So what changes? What changes is the different roles. The poet calls them roles. They are not really realities of his life. They are just different roles that the person is playing, as if this earth is a stage on which a person is just acting. We are directed by the director and we do not know what we are doing. We are just playing all the roles that are given to us. Let's look at it once again. Then will he fit his tongue to dialogue of business, love, or strife. But it will not be long ere this be thrown aside, and with new joy and pride the little actor cons another part, filling from time to time his humorous stage with all the persons down to palsied age. That life brings with her in her equipage, as if his whole vocation were endless imitation. Our very existence is just about playing different roles on this stage of this earth. It is not our reality, it is not life, it is not our existence. It is just a little bit of time where we have fallen asleep and we are dreaming and we are taking different roles that the earth keeps providing us so that we get busy with these things and we do not get homesick, so that we do not think about where we have come from, so that we do not feel bad that we are not at our home anymore. So the world just keeps us busy. Now, after this, there comes another stanza where there are some amount of philosophization about children in general, and we will see how children are called the philosophers because they can see and understand things that we adults cannot. Because as we have said earlier, the children are so close to God, the children are so covered with a heavenly glory, but that they can easily see into the life of things. We, the adults, we have to really struggle to see the life of things. How do we know that? We know that because a child is so close to nature. A child enjoys nature. The child can see that heavenly glory in nature. We adults cannot. So, in this stanza, we see that the poet will call children as the best philosophers. Thou, whose exterior semblance doth belie thy soul's immensity, thou best philosopher, who yet dost keep thy heritage, thou eye among the blind, thou that deaf and silent readest the eternal deep, haunted forever by the eternal mind. So a child's exterior appearance is very small, but that does not mean that his soul is also small. In fact, the exterior appearance, it is deceptive. His soul is immense. Because a child is the best philosopher, because he does keep thy heritage. A child is an eye among the blind. A child is our eye. We, the adult people, are blind. If we need to see the reality, we have to see it through a child, as if the child is our eyes. A child is the eye among the blind, that deaf and silent readeth the eternal deep. We have discussed about it in the previous video where I say that the eternal time and the immortal soul, these things are represented through the imagery of an ocean, an eternal deep. A deep also refers to an ocean, a sea. So a child is very much connected to that sea. An adult person is not. You are haunted forever by your eternal mind. Mighty prophet, seer blessed, on whom those truths do rest, which we are toiling all our lives to find, in darkness lost, the darkness of the grave. So a child is so easily in contact with those truths that we, the adult people, try so hard to find, but we cannot find. Those truths are lost in the darkness, and finally are lost in the darkness of our grave. We die, but we cannot understand about those aspects of our existence. Those things that a child very easily and spontaneously, whether understands or not, that's a different question, but very easily and spontaneously connects to. Okay. Thou, over whom thy immortality broods like the day, a master over a slave, a presence which is not to be put by, thou little child, yet glorious in the might of heaven-born freedom on thy being's height. Why with such earnest pains dost thou provoke the years to bring the inevitable yoke? Thus blindly with thy blessedness at strife? So he's saying a child is so blessed. Why do you try so hard and wish so hard to grow up? Why do you provoke the years to come up on you? They are going to come up on you anyway. You are going to grow up anyway. You are going to grow old anyway. You are going to die anyway. So why do you so want to do that? Don't you realize that you are much more blessed than all the adult people around you? Full soon thy soul shall have her earthly freight, and custom lie upon thee with a weight heavy as frost and deep almost as life. Anyway, life is going to be hard for you, just as it is hard for us. But why do you try so much to get it? Okay, so from there we come to the next stanza, and here we see that the poet has tried so hard and now he has come to terms with the fact that he has lost something now that he is grown up. But he is trying to come to terms with this. He is trying to accept this. And he is trying to see, okay, this is lost. What is left? Now let us see. O joy that in our embers is something that doth live, that nature yet remembers what was so fugitive. The thought of our past years in me doth breed perpetual benediction. Not indeed for that which is most worthy to be blessed, delight and liberty, the simple creed of childhood, whether busy or at rest, with new-fledged hope still fluttering in his breast. So, now that I have grown up, I do not have that spontaneous connection with nature that I used to have once I was a child. But guess what? I have the memory of that. I can still remember them, and I can still feel the blessedness that I used to feel at that time. Not for this I raise a song of thanks and praise, but for those obstinate questionings of sense and outward things, falling from us vanishings, blank misgivings of a creature moving about in world not realized, high instincts before which our mortal nature did tremble like a guilty thing surprised. But for those first affections, those shadowy recollections, which, be they what they may, are yet the fountain light of all our day, are yet a master light of all our seeing, uphold us, cherish, and have power to make our noisy years seem moments in the beings of eternal silence. Truth that wake to perish never, which neither listlessness nor mad endeavor, nor man nor boy, nor all that is at enmity with joy can utterly abolish or destroy. So, in all these lines, all that he is saying is that, okay, I have lost the spontaneous connection with God. But you know what? There are so many things that are still left. First, I can remember that blessed mood that I once used to have. And secondly, now I have grown up, so I have developed that understanding, the philosophical understanding that I did not have at that time when I was a child. Today, I have so many questions in our mind that he opened his poem with this question: where is that gone? Where is the visionary gleam gone? That question he did not have when he was a child. The understanding of how nature is so important, how soul is so immortal, how time is eternal, what God is, and where our soul actually comes from. All these things. Does a child know all these things? The child does not know all these things. But now we have understood this. And this has dawned on us like a truth as a sun comes up in the morning. This truth has also comes up in our life as if it has just lightened up all the darkness. And this is going to go with us. This is a truth that wait to perish never. We are never going to forget this. And nothing, no matter how bad a thing happens in our life, nothing and no one can take that truth away from us. Nothing and no one can take that sense of gratefulness that has come up along with the truth away from us. We are so happy, we are so grateful, we are so blessed that we know that entire thing. We know that our existence is just like a small phase of the existence on this earth is just like a small phase of this in this entire existence of the soul, which is immortal. So from our birth till our death, it's just a very small time, and we realize that this is the truth that comes upon us, and that gives us that sense of belonging. It gives us that sense of gratefulness, the sense of blessedness, and nothing and no one can take that away from me. So yes, I have lost something, but no, I have not lost everything. And more importantly, I have gained some other things that have compensated the loss. So, hence in a season of calm weather, though inland far we be, our souls have sight of that immortal sea, which brought us hither, can in a moment travel thither, and see the children sport upon the shore, and hear the mighty waters rolling evermore. So here the imagery of ocean has come back again. Even when we are not living on the seashore, even if we are living in the midst of the city, but on a day when the weather is calm and there is no noise, if we try, we can hear the sound of the ocean. And also we can go to the sea beach, and also we can see the children playing on the sea beach. This entire imagery is continuing with the same idea where we say that even if we have grown up, even if we are no longer a child, even if we are, as we say, that our birth is compared to the event of someone landing on the sea beach from water, and then from there we start walking and we go in land. That is the process of growing up. So now that we are in the towns, we are not in the sea beach, but we can still hear the sound. That means even now, even though we do not feel that connection with nature, but if we try, we can understand this entire picture as a whole, and we can just observe the children and we can see how they are in contact with God, how they are in contact with heaven, how their soul is so mighty. We can feel that. So then, as we said, we have not lost everything. In fact, we have gained a lot many things. So then sing, ye birds, sing, sing a joyous song, and let the young lambs bound as to the tabor sound. We in thought will join your throng. Ye that pipe and ye that play, ye that through our hearts today feel the gladness of the May. So we see the poem we are almost reaching the end of the poem, and we see that it is coming a full circle where he is going back to describing all those beautiful things of the nature that he started his poem with. And he said that okay, so now that the world is so happy, the nature is so happy, I'm not sad anymore. And finally he is really not sad anymore. He has successfully negotiated with himself, and he has come to terms with the fact that yes, he has lost something, but then that was inevitable, that was unavoidable. You couldn't have done anything to avoid it. So it is good to accept it. In fact, it is good that we have grown up, because we have gained this philosophical mind that we did not have when we were a child. Our connection with nature, with God, with heaven, everything was spontaneous. But now we have the thinking mind. Even if we have lost the spontaneous connection, but we have gained the philosophical knowledge. So I'm happy. So the poet is not sad anymore. So he is happily describing the beauty of nature. Though nothing can bring back the hour of splendor in the grass, of glory in the flower, we will grieve not, rather find strength in what remains behind. In the primal sympathy which, having been, must ever be, in the soothing thoughts that spring out of human suffering, in the faith that looks through deaths, in years that bring the philosophic mind. As we say, that spontaneous connection with heaven is more than compensated with this philosophic mind that we have gained. And with this philosophic mind, we can see, we can look through death. We cannot look, we do not no longer look at death. We look through death, because death is not the end of anything. We can see through death, and we can see that we continue to exist even after death, because our soul is immortal. That understanding has come to us with age. In years that brings the philosophic mind, and O ye fountains, meadows, hills, and groves, forebode not any severing of our loves, yet in my heart of hearts I feel that your might. I only have relinquished one delight, to live beneath your more habitual sway. I love the brooks which down their channels fret, even more than when I tripped lightly as they. The innocent brightness of a newborn day is lovely yet. The clouds that gather round the setting sun do take a sober coloring from an eye that hath kept watch over man's mortality. Another race hath been, and other palms our own. Thanks to the human heart by which we live, thanks to its tenderness, its joys and fears. To me, the meanest flowers that blows can give, thoughts do often lie too deep for tears. So, with age, even though we have lost that spontaneous connection with heaven, with nature, through nature rather, with God, Even though we have lost that, but we have gained many things, so many things. We have gained a philosophical mind. We have gained a heart, a human heart that is guided by tenderness, by joy, that is guided by sympathy for other people, that is gently guided by affection. And this blessed mind continues after our death, because we realize that death is not the end of everything. We realize that our soul is immortal and time is eternal, and this life, whatever happens in this life, that is just a very tiny part of that eternal existence, just a very tiny part. So that lightens all the burden of this world, that makes our existence so much more better. So we are grateful for what we have, even though we are sad about what we have lost. So that was the poem all about. Thank you so much for watching. We'll come back with other such texts. Thank you.